We're on to season 4, and the first quarterback projected to be taken is Randall Waters to the 49ers, 5th overall. We're 9th overall and they have us selecting a tackle, but we don't need one. Let's start the offseason. We have 2 retirements, Pfeiffer, which was expected, and House, who I didn't expect to retire so early. We're not going to miss Pfeiffer. We still have Edwards and Parks, but out of curiosity I looked into bringing him back and he wanted to come back, but for a lot of money. Pfeiffer will not be returning. House is the lowest rated player at the cornerback position. I did see how much he wanted to return. It was too much. House will not be returning this next season. For those who are curious, we do get the salary back from them and it's added back to the cap. We're now on to the re-signings, and we have a lot of re-signings to do this year. The first one, Lamar Smith. I thought he'd be retired by now, but he just keeps on returning. I think he's a good player for a game or two, but his time has come. Unfortunately, I have a soft spot for him. I'm bringing him back. We have 4 wide receivers that are on expired contracts, and I think you already know who I want to bring back. Adrian Woods had a good sophomore season with us. I do expect him to have a breakout season. It's a no-brainer. He's returning. I like Tim Dwight. He's a solid player. We just don't throw it enough. I'm bringing him back, but this will probably be his last contract. If it wasn't for how Berrien performed this past season, I would not give him a contract, but let's just hope he can keep it up at that level of production. Eric Parker was a starter in season 1, but he never improved with the team. He's not coming back. We do have 2 players at guard who need contracts. I traded for Ledford back in season 1, decent backup, but that's about it. He wanted a 5-year deal, which it's not bad, but since he's going into his 8th season, I didn't want to commit to him for that long. He's not coming back. Phil Bogle is the other guard who needed a new contract. He's not great. He also wanted a 7-year contract. Yeah, he's not coming back. We do have a tackle who needs a contract, Leander Jordan. He's decent, but a career backup. I wanted to give him a contract, but I ended up passing on it. He won't be back. One of my most disappointing players, Sean Phillips, needs a contract. 2 years as a starter and only 2 sacks. He can be a good backup. I did end up giving him an offer to basically be a career backup. Now, the last player is Gabriel Wilson. I like Wilson, I really do. I think it's just time to move on from him. I did look into what he wanted, a 6-year deal. He would have been really cheap, but he's not coming back. We have 5 players this season who are not returning. 3 of them are originals, and 5 were on this team in year 1. We head off to free agency now. Corin Robinson leads this group this year. I could use him, but I wanted to look at kickers first. We need one over Nate Kading. Randy Taylor interested me. He's got good power, accuracy. He hasn't been used the past 2 years. I decided to take a chance on him and give him an offer. I'm also looking into the quarterbacks in free agency. Imagine what a guy like Breeze would be like on this team. I also looked at Rich Subert to beef up this interior offensive line, but he wanted a 7-year deal. You know me, I pass on those deals all the time. After some haggling with Taylor, a guy who nobody wanted, I decided not to waste my time with him and skipped free agency. Now, I've talked about drafting a quarterback, and I have a 1st, 2nd, and 3 thirds. I wanted to trade up since the 49ers have the 5th pick and I have the 10th. Wait, didn't I have the 9th earlier? Well, apparently they moved us below the Steelers. I wonder if it's because we beat them. At the combine, I looked at the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft. They're not all that different from each other in attributes. Waters is the one projected to be the first quarterback taken, but interestingly enough, no other quarterback is projected to be taken in the 1st round. Do we risk trading down to the early 2nd round to get a quarterback, or should we not risk it. Well, the draft is now underway and Waters was indeed drafted by the 49ers. My question is, should we draft Lewis, Nelson, or wait till the second round? Well, I decided we're drafting Lewis in the first round. He has a great arm, good accuracy, decent read coverage. I do plan on sitting him behind Rivers this entire season. I think he's as good as anyone we could have gotten in free agency too. We're now in the second round and our other quarterback we scouted, Nelson, is still available. I took some time to decide if I wanted to take him too. I think I also could have waited to selected a quarterback since the only other quarterback taken was Craig Barrett in the second round. Ultimately, I drafted a strong safety with Terrence Keel hitting a ceiling. I wanted to find someone with more potential. Hopefully Delbert Ferguson can deliver on that. In the third round, a pick we got from the Steelers with the Nick Hardwick trade, we selected a guard. We let two of our guards go this offseason. I feel like Goff's time is running out on this team, and Jimmy Campbell helps us future-proof this offensive line. With our second, third round pick, I selected an inside linebacker. Last year, I drafted Parks. This year, I drafted Sparks. Donnie Edwards might be running on fumes going into next season after his injury. This pick lets us prepare for the eventual decline and retirement of Edwards. And our final third round pick we got from the Browns when we traded Fisk, we selected a defensive tackle. I'm preparing to move on from Olszewski if he continues not to improve, or if he wants too much money, but that's only if Henderson can improve enough to make it easy to move on. We didn't have a fourth round pick because of the trade for James Hall, but in the fifth round we selected a center. Bernard Lindsey was a surprise selection. I wasn't expecting his rating to be so high, but his pass blocking is absurdly low. I think he'll be a decent backup and allow us to move on from Ball. We did have a second, fifth round pick with the Bears trade from last year. We selected a free safety. We let Gabriel Wilson go after his contract expired. This is just a backup selection. Williams improved a lot from year 1 to 2. I don't expect Preston Pratt to take his job. In the sixth round, we selected a cornerback. House retired this offseason. Warren Hodges is just a body to replace him. In the final round, we drafted a wide receiver. We let Eric Parker walk. Kevin Lloyd will be his replacement on the depth chart. The offseason is over and season 4 is getting closer. The preseason, the team is looking pretty good. The Chargers did get a big injury in Finoti this season, out for 11 weeks. Also, Wells will be out for 2 weeks, which isn't as bad. Before we go to the regular season, we need to lower our roster from 56 to 54. I did consider releasing a quarterback on the team, Owen being the odd man out, but I waited. I went to the running backs position and noticed Michael Turner. 3 years with the team, but hasn't been anything more than a bench warmer. He's gone. I also considered trading Donnie Edwards away. I have enough trust in Parks to move on from Edwards. I did look around, but in the end, I couldn't find a trade I liked. So I ended up releasing him, let him choose who he wants to go to. We did get $4 million back to our cap. I also gave a new contract to Sandoval. I didn't want to wait for his rating to improve again, so I thought I'd sign him now so I don't have to deal with a salary increase the following year. I also did the same thing to Parks. Before we see the roster progression, I wanted to show we are ranked 10th in the power rankings. I don't know how to feel about this. Once again, LT leads our elite players, but he also regressed again this season. It's understandable considering the season he had. Interestingly, he lost a bit of speed, route running, and leadership, but the biggest hit was his consistency again. I can't imagine that hurts your ratings that much. For the first time, LT is not alone. Roger Clark is also elite, barely edging his way in with a 90 overall. I said he was going to be the best player on this defense. Folks, Where's the lie? If we look at the top players, yeah, LT regressed, but I think as a whole, the entire team has improved. I'm loving the way this is coming together. I think I said this last year, but each season we've been improving. What's not to love? Quarterback position is similar, except with the addition of Alfredo Lewis, who I do plan on sitting this season. Fields did improve by 1 point, which is surprising, but still the same for the most part. The running backs group has been mostly the same for a few years. LT and Smith are the veterans in this group. Surprisingly, Smith is sucking the youth away from Porter because he regressed while Smith somehow got better. I'm kind of leaning towards having Smith be the backup. You never want to see your heroes grow old. This is the reason why Lorenzo Neal was the second best player on this team in year 1, and he's fallen so hard. At least he's teaching Hardy how to replace him. Guys, I think we're in trouble. I have no idea what could have caused Woods to regress so much. He wasn't injured. He had a pretty good season last year. I have no clue why he's fallen so hard going into his 3rd year. I might look into trading for another receiver. I think I'm going to have to call it on McBride. He's one of the few high picks that we've had that has not worked out for us. On the bright side, Gates is improving. What's improving? I have no clue, but he's improving. With Wells being out for 2 weeks, I think our 5th round pick in this past draft will have to start over Ball. I want to trade Ball away, and with him regressing this season, I believe now is probably the best time to do that before his value goes lower. I'm just waiting for Wells to be healthy. One of the best surprises this season so far has been our 3rd round pick, Jimmy Campbell. He's improved so much since the draft, but with Finoti being out for 11 weeks, it's unfortunate. On the bright side, if he's out for 11 weeks and he's still 78 overall, he might be in the 80s when he returns. The tackles position is interesting. Pratt didn't really progress much, which is fine. Hicks, on the other hand, has improved pretty well, while Olivier has regressed hard. Overall, the starters on the offensive line look good, so hopefully this helps LT get more production. Sandoval still isn't higher than Olshansky, but he's getting closer to overtaking him. I'm also very happy I drafted Henderson because I completely forgot how bad the depth was in this position. James Hall and Greg Floyd have improved, while Phillips and Ball have regressed. Another situation where I think the starters are good, but if someone goes down, we're in trouble. I never thought Lieber would be the best linebacker on this team, but here we are, and I do not hate it. He's improved once again along with everyone else in the position. I'm always so surprised Mallard is still on the team. This caught me off guard. I thought Parks was going to be the unanimous starter this season after letting Edwards go. Instead, Sparks looks to have taken over the team. I now regret giving Parks that contract. At least we have a decent backup for a few years. Roger Clark is the best player, and I was really hopeful for the corner position after drafting Porter, but it looks like Jammer outplayed him. To be fair, Porter wasn't really great last year. On the bright side, the drop off after those 3 isn't too bad. Breaking news. Keel has gone back to his 74 rating, which means I'm just going to go ahead and start Ferguson this year. I was hopeful Keel would progress enough to make me not want to replace him, but that hasn't been the case. Another shocking phenomenon happened. Williams regressed hard. I have no clue. I have no idea what caused this either, but basically this means I'm starting Pratt over him, which sucks because I had such high hopes for Williams. Remember Nate Kading? He's gone. Hello, Terrence Wright. He is going to be our new kicker this season. Good kicking power, good accuracy. I expect him to be way better than Kading's entire career. And Mike Cyphris continues to improve. Phillip Rivers is on the final year of his contract, and I may have to pay him big money this coming season, or I might end up letting another quarterback go like Drew Brees, who landed in St. Louis after free agency. I still think he's the product of the teams he goes to. We sucked, so therefore he did too. To avoid having to pay Rivers next year, I considered trading him, but I like him too much, so I'm trading Fields. I ended up trading him to Carolina for a guard and a 6th round pick. Fields wasn't a great quarterback, but he was serviceable. He'll get the opportunity to sit behind Delhomme and develop, while we get Nelson. And that shows you how little trust I have in Goff. I think Goff is a good backup. He just can't play 11 straight games. So before we start the season, I did look for a wide receiver. I looked into Chad Johnson, Andre Johnson, Terrell Owens, even Plexico Burress. I did find a trade partner and it only cost us a first rounder. Welcome to San Diego, Randy Moss. He was on the 49ers, but he'll hopefully be spending the rest of his career with the Chargers. Also, you want to know where Edwards went? He went to sit behind Lewis and Urlacher. What the heck? His rating even improved. Well, whatever. Let's just start the season. Our season opener will be against the New England Patriots. I have high hopes for this season. It all starts here. The score was not as close as it looked. It was 31-16 going into the final 2 minutes. A garbage touchdown made it look closer than it was, but on the bright side, Randy Moss is looking good. It seems like we take on the AFC South every year. The first match this season against them will be in Houston. We had a chance to get the ball at the end for one last drive, but the defense failed to do their job. This defense continues to be terrible no matter what I do. I was getting real tired of this defense being Swiss cheese, and noticed Mike Brown was in free agency. He was asking for a lot of money I don't have, but after trading Ball with the return of Wells to Cincinnati for a 3rd round pick and a center who I ended up cutting to make room for Mike Brown. We're broke now, but this has to make our defense better, right? We're going to find out against the Indianapolis Colts. It did not help. I repeat, it did not help. To be fair, this offense was terrible. Even with Moss, each week that goes by, I keep leaning closer to doing another rebuild, a rebuild within a rebuild. We now take on the undefeated Oakland Raiders. We got our first win of the year against a division rival. Phillip Rivers had 3 passing touchdowns. Looked like everything went our way this game. Can we carry the momentum over against the Kansas City Chiefs? This was the first time in the series that the Chargers beat the Chiefs. Are we good? Now, before I go crowning my ass, I'm going to wait, but I'm very happy we got our first win against the Kansas City Chiefs. They've given us 3 divisional games in a row. If we can beat the Broncos, we'll have a big advantage. The last time we were 500 was year 1 and 2. We were 1-1. We've never been this deep into the season with a non-losing record. This is unknown territory for us. This will also be a huge measuring stick for us as we take on the 5-1 Lions. Once again, this defense can't get the ball back to the offense for one last drive. We came close, but Phillip Rivers wasn't that much better either. Rivers was clutch last year. This year, it's been a different story. Well, can we at least do two things we haven't done in this series? Can we finish at 500 for the first half of the year and sweep a division rival? We are 4-4. Can we make a playoff push this year? All 4 wins have come against division opponents. This could be our year. Keep in mind, we had 2 close games against Houston and Detroit. We're a few plays away from being 6-2. 4-1 in our last 5 games. We now take on the Packers. One of the worst fourth quarter performances I've ever seen. An interception to let the Packers take the lead, then a drive where Rivers only threw once, then we get an interception to get into the red zone to win the game, and Rivers couldn't get it done. It was just terrible. So after a bye week, to get back to 500, they go to Chicago to face the Bears. Like the game against the Packers, the defense gave the ball back to Rivers near the red zone this time, and Rivers throws an interception. That's 4 games this season that have been thrown away on the final drives. Can we right the ship before it gets out of control against the Vikings?
Michael Bennett is just shy of the midfield stripe and takes the quick handoff with a spin. They're fooled! Nobody was deep on the left side! 10-5, touchdown! The Vikings.
No, we cannot. The game wasn't even close, as the score suggests. It was 21-7 before the Chargers scored a garbage touchdown. We've completely fallen apart. At one point, I thought we were going to make the playoffs. At this point, I just want another win. What better team to play than the Broncos?
Randy Moss is split out at the 39-yard line. And a short play, and he's running deep. Makes the grab at the 10-5.
Randy Moss went off in this game, and my hopes for the playoffs are completely gone, but I would love to see this team compete, and this is also a reminder that Rivers' career in San Diego comes down to this final stretch. The first game in that stretch will be against the Ravens. That's 5 games this year that this team has lost during the final drive of the game. We're 5-8, we should be 10-3. That's how we know we're not a good team, because good teams win those. We've won every game against the division so far. Can we make it a perfect 6-0? Nope. It wasn't even close. I don't know if the Chiefs were hurt when we faced off with them the first time, but they put us in our place real quick. Guys, I think we suck again. We now take on the 3-win Jacksonville Jaguars. Sometimes I feel like if this game wants you to lose, you're going to lose. I do get tired of seeing the game cast doing some sus stuff like what you just saw against Jacksonville. Let me know if I should continue doing the game cast or just going back to simulating each week like in the previous series. I think 15 games is enough to know that Rivers is not the guy for the team. 6 games where we could have won it. Keep in mind 2 of them weren't his fault. His numbers look good, but how much of that was because of Randy Moss? Final game of the year will go to the rookie Alfredo Lewis. He'll be starting his first career game against the Tennessee Titans. I've been burned 2 times in this series by our quarterback's performances. Fields burned me, Rivers burned me this season. I don't want to be burned by Lewis next season. He has to be the guy or we are rebuilding again. Phillip Rivers' time in San Diego has run out. As good as his numbers look on paper, he also caused us to lose at least 4 games this year. It pains me to do this, but we're going to move on from him. Alfredo Lewis had 1 game, and it was one of the most beautiful games in the series. The problem is that Phillip Fields also started out hot before cooling off, and I'm giving Lewis 1 season before I more than likely trade for a big name quarterback. LT tied for the most yards he's had in the series. The problem is he had a lower average. I like LT, but he's been declining each season with the Chargers, and at a certain point he needs to have a breakout season to stay on the team when his contract expires. Morris Hardy helped take some of the pressure off of LT. He may not be a great blocker like Neal, but he's got soft hands and some hard cuts. You're probably wondering why you're seeing Lamar Smith. I think he's going to retire, so I gave him the Jerome Bettis treatment and let him see the field a bit more. I'm going to miss him if this is it. This is why I traded for Randy Moss. He made Rivers look good and Lewis look like the next Dan Fouts. I don't know if he's going to be here for long, but we're going to make sure we use him up before he retires. Bernard Berrien just keeps getting better and better. Well, not much better, but he's performing better, and I think he's closer to being a solid number 2 on this team. Well, a solid number 3. This was probably the first year Tim Dwight's production dropped off a bit. I'm okay with this now that Berrien is proving his worth and Randy Moss being a solid number 1. Adrian Woods regressed hard this season, but his numbers look okay. It does show that ratings matter in simulations in terms of stats. This year was his worst year based on production, and it was also his lowest rated season. You know, I'm starting to think that ratings matter. LT's stats get worse, Woods get worse, and Gates gets better. I don't even understand how he improved. But I'll take it. On to the defensive side, and the rookie Felipe Sparks leads the team in tackles this season. He was not bad for a rookie. He was actually really good. 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. You know who else was really good? James Hall. We have our first 10 sack player on the team, 10.5 on the year. He's probably our best trade next to Randy Moss. Jimmy Henderson had another so-and-so season with the team. He can get to the quarterback, but I'm not quite sure what else he can do considering how terrible we were against the run. Greg Floyd has pretty much shown us all he can give. It's not bad, but I'm afraid to say I think he's hit his ceiling in year 2. He's still one of the best defensive ends we've had on this team. I can see why Mike Brown was a free agent. He's nothing special in my opinion, and we're stuck with that horrible contract. I signed him on an impulse and I'm regretting it. Roger Clark continues to get better and better. The dude is legit. If only Porter would do the same. Quentin Jammer is in a contract year, and of course he would have his best season so far in the series. I hope he's not expensive. Bill Porter hasn't been exactly lighting it up since we drafted him. Year 2 was better, but he's going to be compared to Clark for the rest of his career. For some reason, Philip Henderson was starting over Sandoval, even though he was last on the depth chart. I don't know why, but he performed well, you know, before I put Sandoval back in. Ben Lieber has come back to reality. I was expecting this kind of season after him signing his contract the previous year. Jonathan Sandoval didn't get a lot of playing time. I hope this doesn't affect his rating next season. Preston Pratt is a rookie we drafted that was going to start the season before Mike Brown was signed. Should have just ran with him at free safety. I think this season is proof that we should move on from Olshansky. He's not terrible, but he's not great. He's extremely mid. Delbert Ferguson was our starting strong safety. We reached for him in the second round, and I think he performed pretty well. Forced fumbles might be a lucky stat, but he made an impact nonetheless. Terrence Wright made a few chip shots, but also made some longer kicks that I know Kading would have missed. I'm just happy to see the team attempt kicks longer than 35 yards. Mike Cyphers was pretty much on par with the season before. I don't ask a lot out of my punters, but just kick it far and in the 20s. I wanted to show the starting quarterback for Kansas City. We're over here struggling, and they found their next Trent Green. This rebuild has been rough. I also wanted to show Drew Bledsoe. I think his time is coming to an end in Detroit, and Sparks might finally get to start. I think we made the right choice drafting a tackle. Now the yearly awards. Aaron Brooks won MVP, and I think he deserved it. Offensive Player of the Year was Jake Delhomme. This was the first year I felt like no one else deserved these awards. Michael Vick was just okay. McNabb was about the same. Manning went to the 49ers, and if he had Randy Moss, I guaranteed he would have been MVP. While Tom Brady had been kind of mid in this series compared to what you expect of him now. Defensive Player of the Year, Jamie Sharper. The Offensive Rookie of the Year was Hugo Nelson, the quarterback I wanted to take in the second round, but I chose to pass on him. I hope I don't regret it. Defensive Rookie of the Year was Felipe Sparks. I'm very happy with Sparks. He's already outdone Parks, and I'm hoping next season he continues to improve. Our offense did improve. We were 22nd ranked offense in the NFL. Our passing game improved a lot thanks to Moss. We finished 18th, but they struggled to run, finishing 26th in the NFL on the ground. Now our defense has been terrible since the season started, finishing 28th this season. Our pass defense got worse, 24th pass defense, while we have yet to figure out how to stop the run, 31st ranked run defense. On the bright side, we do have 2 Pro Bowlers this season. LT returns for his second in the series, while Randy Moss makes it in his first year with the team. We're in the wild card round, and I'm kind of jealous of Detroit. They were just as bad as us, and they've made the playoffs the past 2 seasons. They even beat the MVP this year. I'm also upset at Kansas City since they're still good even without Trent Green on the team anymore, while Peyton Manning takes the 49ers to the conference championship in his first year with the team. I don't want Kansas City to win. I hate the Jets. Randy Moss is going to hate me that we took him away from the 49ers, and I don't want to see Breeze go to the Super Bowl with the Rams. I hate this Final Four. Rams, Jets, and Drew Brees won a Super Bowl ring before we even made the playoffs. He was a backup, but still, I'm annoyed. Mark Bulger won MVP, and I'm telling you, we just need to have a decent quarterback to take us to the playoffs. If you like this video, be sure to check out the next one to see if I decide to blow up this team if we have a terrible season 5.